our employees. It's fantastic, all of the different ways that the industry has decided, yes, we're gonna own this issue, but we gotta continue to reach the entire trucking industry. But imagine what will happen when we do. And then think about this. What if every taxi driver was trained? What if every bus driver was trained? Every gas station employee along our nation's highways, every oil and gas worker where boomtown effects happen. What if we could train all of these armies across the United States to identify and recognize human trafficking and report it immediately when they see it? Where are the traffickers? What place are they going to have to go? Trucking has got this started, and that's why I say when we talk about who's driving change in this area, we have to talk about the American trucking industry.
This is working. What you're doing has been working, has had a significant impact, and we're so thankful at the hotline that we have this partnership.
There's 2.4 million CDL drivers in the United States. We need to educate them about what we're talking about right here, human trafficking. We can make an impact. We can change everything that goes on out there by getting involved.
Thank God what saved me was that truck driver that called in and said, hey, you know, this is whoever at the truck stop, you know, and we have some girls out here that look pretty young.
911. A couple of girls that picked up 167 trying to do business out here.
Because this trucker made the call, I have an opportunity to actually have life. Without what he did for me, you know, a simple phone call, without that, you know, it would have been total opposite. But here I am, I'm sitting here with my mom, you know, I mean, and that all could have been taken away, but because of, you know, that trucker, I have, you know, a future.
Oh, that trucker. The one that made that phone call. I think about him all the time. I have never met him. I don't know who he is, but boy, I owe him a lot. And if he ever sees this, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Get on your cell phone. I mean, you know, get the TAC card, get the hotline number, call, and if it's someone in trouble, and the cops will show up, it's going to give them a chance to come clean with what's going on, maybe get out of the situation that they're in. So, you know, call the hotline, go inside, tell the management of the truck stop.
I think it has to stop, and I think it's going to take us drivers stopping it and reporting what we're seeing and taking action instead of shutting our curtains and hoping it goes away. I am a team truck driver with my husband, Bob.
Been a 16-year veteran of over-the-road truck driving.
I've been driving for 26 years.
And I am a trucker against trafficking.
And I'm a trucker against trafficking.
I'm a trucker against trafficking.
I am a trucker against trafficking.
My name is Andre, and I'm a trucker against trafficking.
And I am a trucker against trafficking.
My son and I were driving through Oklahoma City, had the radio on, and the guy comes on the radio, hey, anybody want any underage girls?
This one, she didn't even look 13, 14 years old. She had no shoes on. She had a little mini skirt on.
She couldn't have been more than 14, 15 years old.
She probably looked in her 14, 15 years old. I really couldn't tell of her age, but she was very young.
And I know good and well a 14-year-old, 15-year-old is not doing this on her own accord.
I remember looking into the eyes of some of these young girls. They were not willing participants in this at all.
So you know there's some kind of team effort in putting them out there. You have to wonder who's behind them.
They have a pimp or whatever you want to call them, trafficker, slave driver, bottom line.
Sex trafficking is a form of modern-day slavery. It's when traffickers are using force, fraud, or coercion to compel an individual to engage in commercial sex. It also involves anyone who's under the age of 18 is considered a victim of sex trafficking, regardless of the use of force, fraud, or coercion. And this is an issue that affects all populations of victims: men, women, children, foreign nationals, and U.S. citizens. And it's really important that we understand that.
When most people think of the problem of child prostitution and sexual exploitation of children, they think of it as being a problem for foreign countries, for third world nations, and doesn't exist here in the U.S., and that's just not true.
People do not realize how big of a problem this is in the United States. It is extremely pervasive. It's happening in every single state.
The youngest child that we've recovered has been 9. Average age is 13 to 14, possibly 15 years old that they get involved in prostitution.
Nobody wakes up and says, gosh, I'd really like to sell myself on the streets today. That is something that is being directed by the victimizer, by the trafficker. And these kids find themselves in a situation they literally cannot get out of.
If you have adult prostitution going on in your area, you have child prostitution going on in your area. And it happens in a number of different venues.
And traffickers are not only exploiting the victims, but they're also exploiting these locations.
Here we are, you know, I'm 15 years old, my cousin is 14, and we're here at a truck stop, you know, being forced to work it, you know, being forced to go from truck to truck, asking, you know, if the guy would like to have sex with us, you know, and we're young girls, terrified out of our minds.
When the girls don't want to work, they're beaten. In extreme cases, we've seen them drugged, addicted to heroin and things of that nature. It's a brainwashing that begins in a dependency that the pimps try to put on the girls so that they cannot live without them, and that this is all that they can amount to and do.
From the very beginning, they drilled it into my head, they drilled it into her head that, you know, if we try to act up, something really bad was going to happen. He threw me into the dining room table, busted me up pretty good, but Chrissy, he dragged up the stairs by her hair, threw her down the stairs, and did it again like 3 more times. I didn't want to end up dead. I didn't want her dead and it be my fault, you know? I mean, it's like they had us completely wrapped, completely controlled, you know, to where we were brainwashed, to where we were like, okay, we have to do this or else, you know, something bad could happen. I mean, that's what they did. They just played us off each other, you know, and it worked.
I'm hard pressed when I hear people say that, well, some do it willingly and want to do it willingly. I don't think anyone would really want to be beaten and raped on a daily basis and beaten in the most extreme ways. Violence goes hand in hand with these type of cases, and it's used to break down the girls. It's used to discipline the girls. It's used to gain complete control over them. So I don't think there's any real willingness of your victims, especially their child victims.
This is old-fashioned greed, and where you can only sell a drug one time, you can sell a girl or a boy or a man or a woman over and over and over again.
I was scared, unbelievably scared.
The trucking industry is in a unique position because they actually will be in locations that pimps will bring in their victims to be prostituted out. Pimps are very transient. They move around a lot. So do your girls. Your victims are being moved constantly, whether it's through planes or cars that they'll just drive, or bus tickets, or through trucks. Any way that they can get to their money, that's how they're going to get there.
Truckers Against Trafficking is a grassroots organization. It comes alongside the trucking industry, recognizing that they're the eyes and ears of our nation's highways. They're in places that most people aren't, and that they can recognize potential victims of human trafficking more than the rest of us. And so we equip them with tools that they can recognize, identify potential human trafficking victims, and then a number to call, the national hotline number, 1-888-373-7888, so that when they see human trafficking situations, they can report those and hopefully get the victims recovered and perpetrators arrested.
The partnership between the hotline and Truckers Against Trafficking has been really exciting. As soon as this campaign launched, we saw a significant increase in calls about trafficking cases. Now you're talking about a really highly trained group of individuals that are seeing trafficking, they know where to report it, they're reporting it right away, they're often seeing it while it's happening. And so it's even an earlier intervention and action point than a lot of the other cases that we're getting. And as a result, we have seen countless investigations. We've seen countless victims who've been recovered by law enforcement. So this is just, it's so important that this population knows what to recognize, knows who to call, and feels comfortable doing that.
So signs to look for. The most important one is if you ever see a minor selling commercial sex. By federal definition, that is a child, that is a victim of human trafficking. There is no such thing as a child prostitute. But it's not just minors who are being victimized here. We're also talking about adults who are victims of the sex trade.
So where your truckers can help out at their rest stops, they know who's coming in. You see a car pull in or a navigator pulling in. Why is a navigator pulling in with 10 girls in it and one guy behind the wheel? And all of a sudden you've got a bunch of young girls walking out in revealing or lingerie clothing.
So if you're in a parked location and you happen to see lights that are flashing, perhaps signaling that somebody is saying, I'm an available buyer, that should be a red flag. If you happen to hear CB chatter about commercial company or somebody needing to make a quota or somebody referencing their daddy or that boyfriend figure in their life, or if you're that local driver who is loading at a business front and you happen to see that unaccompanied minor or that minor who looks fearful or potentially is under the control of somebody else, what about branding? Do you see some tattoos claiming ownership over this person? This is a potential sign that you are interacting with a human trafficking victim. We've had cases come back from drivers already who are having conversations with people and asking questions like, are you traveling by yourself? And if they're not, who are they traveling with? When's the last time they've seen their family? Do they get to keep any of the money? These are important questions because they're going to help you determine whether or not this person has the freedom to walk out the door or not. So traffickers are continuing to exploit businesses for criminal gain, and they don't care where it is, whether it's that major sporting event or a big convention that's coming to town or in a bus terminal, or it could be a casino. Wherever it is, they're going to go where they can make money.
Everything from hotels and motels, commercial front brothels, to residential brothels, to street-based prostitution, to truck stops.
The more you look, the more you'll find. So what should you do in these situations? Well, first and foremost, make the call. We need you. We need the person who has identified the tip to first make the call. Call the hotline, 888-373-7888.
This is a 24/7 national hotline for victims and survivors of human trafficking and the anti-trafficking field.
It's always details is what helps us. If you can, simple things that you can note, what's the vehicle, the color of the vehicle, the make of the vehicle, description of any occupants, the girls, how many, race, possible age that you think it may not be. If you can get a license plate, what state, what the plate is, that's fantastic. If you can get a description of who's driving it, who's in control of it.
If you call our hotline, you can remain completely confidential. Confidentiality and anonymity are very important to our callers, and we take that very seriously. It's okay to be wrong. We want you to call whether you're sure or not.
And if you are in a location that has a general manager, go in then and tell the general manager. They need to know what's going on their property, wherever you are, wherever you're parked.
You know, it's getting involved that much. We're not saying go out there and grab the girls and try and drive away with them. Now, don't try and rescue them on your own. Every one of these kids that are recovered and saved, every one of these guys that we arrest, that's preventing hundreds, if not thousands of kids from being raped and abducted.
This is working. What you're doing has been working, has had a significant impact, and we're so thankful at the hotline that we have this partnership.
Trucking has got this started, and that's why I say when we talk about who's driving change in this area, we have to talk about the American trucking industry.
There's 2.4 million CDL drivers in the United States. We need to educate them about what we're talking about right here, human trafficking. We can make an impact. We can change everything that goes on out there by getting involved.
Thank God what saved me was that truck driver that called in and said, hey, you know, this is whoever at the truck stop, you know, and we have some girls out here that look pretty young.
911. A couple of girls that picked up 167 trying to do business out here.
Because this trucker made the call, I have an opportunity to actually have life. Without what he did for me, you know, a simple phone call, without that, you know, it would have been total opposite. But here I am, I'm sitting here with my mom, you know, I mean, and that all could have been taken away, but because of, you know, that trucker, I have, you know, a future.
Oh, that trucker. The one that made that phone call. I think about him all the time. I have never met him. I don't know who he is, but boy, I owe him a lot. And if he ever sees this, thank you, thank you, thank you.